Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, some of the new and improved plants for 2018. Let's be honest, there was a few that really did do well this year and have done well in the past when I've grown them. The couple that I did like was the one spirea called Candy Corn. This one has a candy apple sort of red foliage in the early spring, and it sort of gets more intense and rich as the season progresses. The foliage transforms to a sort of a pineapple yellow, which unfortunately is okay, but there's a lot of little dwarf yellow spireas out there, but with the early spring color, I think that this is going to be a much better plant. It is really quite catching, and I think in the market you're going to really like it. The flowers are a dark carmine purple, and they are in late spring, so it sort of fills that gap between spring and summer flowering. And that should make it an interesting plant. Now, of course, we have to talk about the Canadian Shield Rose. It is the rose for the 150th anniversary of Canada. And it goes across all of Canada, which means that's really good. I mean, it's hardy. Now, what I will say is the red is very good, very intense. It's not dark red, it's a bright red, which is better. I also think that the green foliage is really quite good and quite disease resistant. Takes a lot of abuse, this plant. And I think the only downside to my way of thinking is the fact that this plant is going to be about 4 to 5 feet in all directions. Now, this may change with, if you're in a more adverse climate, but I don't know, and I don't think anyone knows yet. But I will say this, that's what it's rated for, so make sure you give it some room. It is a very good red, and this is why I like it. In fact, I've planted it in my front yard, so we'll be able to see, and everyone going by will be able to see it in bloom and judge it over the coming years. So those are some of the things that I think you should take a look at. The begonia, more the fibrous one, the one called Big, still does fabulous in my garden. I still need you to plant it either in containers or in the ground. And it seems to do well with moist conditions, decent soil. But I will admit that this wet season did hold it back a little bit. It was a little too wet. And it got to a point where I had to move them under a tree, not for the shade, but to prevent some of the moisture from the regular rain. But other than that, it did very, very well. Now, there are some woody plants that are very popular, such as that Spirea candy corn. But there is one, it's a Physocarpus, which is called Little Angel. Now, this is an eastern ninebark. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story about ninebarks. I hate ninebarks. Don't like them. I haven't liked them since before I went to hort school. I didn't like them in the neighbors' yards. I didn't like looking after them. And I thought they were plain ugly. And I'm probably toning that down. Now, that was, of course, many, 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 many years ago. Result is that they have been improved. But they're still very susceptible, in my opinion, to mildew, and for this reason I have not recommended them for many years. And so if we here, particularly in the Niagara area, have a very high humidity, it encourages them. And so I will hedge my bet, put my tongue in cheek and say, okay, try it, but be aware. It is a very dwarfed 9-bark, this little angel. It has orange-red foliage in the spring that darkens to a more of a burgundy in the summertime. It has the white flowers in the summer, and it has the dark fruit later on. It grows to a height of 60 centimeters and a spread of 30. It is hardy only to zone 6, which means that we're stuck with it down in southern Ontario in this part of the country. So we'll see. Okay? And to be honest with you, I'm leery. I am very leery and don't want to make a strong recommendation, but try it if you like. Now, there is a new tropical hibiscus. This is Hibiscus rosa sinensis Ivory Wind. Now, I like this one simply because it has such a very large, dark pink eye. It's got yellow buds which open to creamy white, so you got changes of color. And since they all don't bloom at the same time, you're going to have the yellow buds and the white with the pink, dark pink eye at the same time. The flowers are going to be a creamy white, and they're almost 5 inches across. The stamen which comes out, of course, has that yellow tinge to it. So it might be worthwhile trying. Remember, it's not hardy. It is a tropical hibiscus, but it is probably going to be something that will stand out in the garden against that dark green foliage. And you can go in and out. In other words, it's out vacationing for the summer and in for the winter. If you don't mind doing that, then go for it. The other thing that I do with these on occasion is sink them right in the container, right into another pot or right into the ground, and use them as a specimen, and then lift them and bring them in for the winter. Clean up the pot, obviously. You may bring in a few bugs this way, but be aware that's possible in any case, no matter where you put the plant, and all plants for that matter that you're bringing in. You do have to treat them with an insecticidal soap as well. So keep an eye on them after you put them in, keep them isolated, and see if you've brought anything in that you weren't expecting. The pentas are doing better and better and better. When I first went to school, the pentas were not that great, to the point where we almost totally ignored them as a plant for the garden. Now they are getting better. There is Lucky Star, which is a penta. This series has been bred for bloom, follow-up bloom, and very quickly. So that makes them more bloom efficient. How's that? It's available in dark red, pink, deep pink, lavender, violet, and white. So you've got some variation here, maybe even a drift of these, or you could do them as contrast or fillers between some of the plants. It grows 30 to 40 centimeters tall and 30 to 36 centimeters wide. Remember, they're more of an annual, and I would not depend on them for coming over winter. There's a Petunia hybrid called Color Blitz. This is a glow blue standard. It's got a medium vigor as a Petunia, but the blooms really are lush. There's lots of them. They're bicolors. The flower is tons of them. They just cover the plant, which, to my way of thinking, is a good idea. They're basically purple. Bluey purple. How's that? with white edges. Now the white edge is inconsistent, so that adds interest to each flower because flowers can be slightly different, but at the same time very, very similar. It grows 20 to 25 centimeters tall and about 40 to 55 centimeters wide, so it's a very wide plant. So this one might make a good ground cover and good in a good condition soil, but in a container it could be fantastic, particularly in large containers in the sun. Try it. We'll see. The dahlia yellow. The dahlias are been around for a little while, and this one seems to be an improved yellow. It has excellent branching, which gives it sort of that nice look. It is got superior mildew resistance, which is what we're looking for here, particularly in the Niagara area with the high humidity. So you may want to try that one, but you're going to have to go looking for this one. This is a dahlia, D-A-L-A-Y-A, dahlia, okay, D-A-H-L-I-A, right? And it is the yellow, so go look for that one. Phlox Giselle Hot Pink is another one that's going to be coming out in the spring for 2018. It's got large flower clusters. It makes a great presentation in the landscape with lots and lots and lots of color. The whole Giselle series is actually very good, though I think the hot pink might be just stunning, eye-catching. Pink, light pink, violet, and that is a light violet, and white. So you got some contrasting there, and you can certainly try that one. That is an annual phlox as well. The Calibrachoas, they've been doing a tremendous amount of breeding on these ones. I think they're starting to become overused, but people seem to really like them. They buy them. I think a lot of people buy them because they think they're petunias, just small mini petunias, and they're not. The Calibrachoas Neo Pink Strike. The large and early flowering flowers, and it is part of a series. It is semi-trailing in habit. It's got a medium vigor, and it's good for baskets or in mixed displays. The deep pink strike brings some extra large sort of punch type eye to the series, so it's actually darker in the center, still got the yellow down the throat, but it's almost a raspberry pink in the center, and it fades out to a very light pink or pink blush outside, on the outside edges of the petals, making it quite an interesting looking plant. Begonia, this one is a non-stop begonia. We haven't seen or heard a lot of breeding from the non-stops lately. It is a tuberous begonia, mocha red. So it's a non-stop mocha red. It is in the non-stop series. It features huge, full flowers, deep red, and that is good. I like the deep red begonias. The tuberous begonias in deep red really stand out in my garden, and for many years I would use the older ones and plant them in the same spot in my garden. And the neighbors all thought they were perennials and wanted to know what kind they were because they were so beautiful, but they were always the same color in the same spots. Oh well, I had to straighten them out on that one. Osteospermum, I can only say good things about this plant. They're doing more and more with them, and I want you to make sure that you include them in your list of plants to try in your garden. This one is the Daisy Falls series. It grows and blooms in the typical pattern of the osteospermums, but it's more vigorous and it's got more of a trailing habit. So it's available in pink, purple, white, and amethyst. So I think what you'll find is you're going to have some interest. People will think they're daisies. And, I don't know, Cape Daisy may be a reason why it's the common name for it. But it is not a daisy per se. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.